Welcome to another episode of the Animal Liberation Hour, where we chat with animal rights and liberation activists from around the world so we can be inspired, learn, and grow and create a just and equitable world for all the living beings whom we share this planet with. My name is Shreya, and this is the Animal Liberation Hour. This podcast is brought to you by the Animal Activism Collective. For more information, you can visit animalactivismcollective.com, where you can sign up for a free mentor. You can also join our Patreon, where even just $2 a month goes a long way, so you can support the important work that AAC does. Also, make sure to follow AAC on all social media platforms so you can keep up with all the behind the scenes and all upcoming events. And now for our interview. For today's episode, I am so excited to chat with two incredibly empowering and inspiring women who I have the honor of being able to call my good friends, Phoebe Connor and April Noga. They are the powerhouses behind Chicagoland Pig Rescue, which is an organization that's committed to education, outreach, and rescue of pigs. They have housed so many pigs, found permanent homes for them, rescued them from a number of horrific situations, and they are doing such remarkable work in the community and for the pigs. And in this conversation, we chat about their inspiration, why pigs, some of the challenges they face, and when it comes to challenging a lot of society's misconceptions about pigs. And I hope you learn a lot from this, as I did. And what I took away from this chat is that even with a few resources, you can actually do a lot for the animals. And so without any further delay, I bring you my good friends and incredible, incredible humans, Phoebe Connor and April Noga of the Chicagoland Pig Rescue. I'm so excited that you took time out of your busy day helping the pigs and your personal lives to join us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're really excited.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks, Shreya.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for all that you do. And I love both your stories individually about how you went plant-based and vegan and got into animal rights and animal rescue. So one of the things at the Animal Activism Collective is how people find connections through their stories and how they made that connection with animals. So I'd love to hear both of your stories. If Phoebe, you would like to go first because you're on my screen right now.
Sure. So back in it was 2009 going into 2010. I was a freshman in college, and my freshman year roommate said she was going to go vegetarian for her New Year's resolution. And at the time, I was a big animal lover and had been thinking of cutting out meat for a while. So I started doing some research, diving into some literature, and I ended up going straight vegan after reading the book Skinny Bitch. And I was vegan for about, I think, a year or maybe a little under, and went back and forth vegan, vegetarian for a while, probably until I got rescued my pig Hadley in 2017. So she's definitely was a big inspiration just to make sure that I could, make the least amount of negative impact that I can each day. And I think just our work through Chicagoland Pig Rescue with April and everyone in our community, along with Hadley and all of our rescues, kind of keeps me motivated.
Yeah, and I just don't know what Skinny Bitch is about. Would you mind giving like a little teaser? Because I know when you first hear it, you're like, oh, that's a diet book. But I haven't read it. But
Right. It's like a kind of like I guess a weird name. I feel like it doesn't match up with everything. But it really was my first time kind of diving into the animal agriculture industry and everything behind eggs and milk and specifics that I don't think I really had realized at that point. So it was kind of very eye-opening and awakening, learning about things that I didn't, want to contribute to. It definitely was hard, I think, going cold turkey. The meat was pretty easy to cut out as I didn't eat a lot of that to begin with. But yeah, kind of helped spark the journey.
Yeah, for sure. And April, your story is particularly unique from a lot of the other vegan origins that I've heard. So I'd love for you to share yours.
Oh, absolutely. So I became vegetarian as soon as we got our first companion animal, Ruby, our first pig. My husband and I both, we found out when we were dating that both of us as kids would beg our parents to have a pet pig. And we found that we had that in common. And so once we got a house and a big yard, we were like, okay, now's our chance. We're the adults here. We can make the decisions. So we decided to get our first pig, Ruby. And I really realized, out of respect for her and making that connection immediately to take meat out of my diet. And through having Ruby, I started following different accounts, different animal rights accounts, different pig accounts on Instagram and Facebook. And around the same time that we adopted Ruby, my chronic illness, I had a big flare up and we didn't really know what was going on. And I was so sick. And that just led to like hours of me being on the couch, like scrolling through these new accounts that I had been following. And I remember the night that kind of changed everything. I was cuddling with Ruby on the couch while really sick. And it was like the middle of the night. I was too sick to sleep. And I came across a video of a pig in a gestation crate at a factory farm. And it just instantly broke me because I instantly made that connection between, besides breed, there's no difference between my dynamic, amazing, sentient Ruby and this mother pig who is being kept in these horrible conditions. And I went down the rabbit hole and saw all this footage and learned a lot that night. But I'll never forget, I was looking at the pig in the gestation crate, and I said out loud in the middle of the living room, I said, if I ever get better, I am going to spend the rest of my life fighting for you so that your life is not in vain, and I'm going to fight for pigs. And that's like my mission. And thankfully I did get better. And that was kind of the crux of starting to rescue. So my veganism and rescue kind of blossomed all at the same time.
I love that story. It makes me emotional each time when, when you make that connection and you say, I'm
Yeah.
never for you. And yeah, yeah. That was that getting emotional. Uh, so how did you two meet then? And how did Chicagoland Pig Rescue come to be? How were you established when you'd met? Like, I'd love to hear that story and like your friendship as well.
So prior to Chicagoland Pig Rescue, April and I had really been doing our own kind of independent work. I think from us both, getting our own pigs. We started, like April kind of mentioned, joining some of the social media groups, sanctuary groups, pig transport groups, things like that. And we were helping other rescues and sanctuaries transport pigs during times. We were helping set up transport for them or networking for pigs in need. And April and I actually met on a transport for Oinking Acres that's in Sanctuary Rescue and Sanctuary that's in Brownsburg, Indiana. And we split up the transport, and April came over, brought the pig to my house for the final leg, and that's how we met ultimately. And from there, April started talking about, her vision of Chicagoland Pig Rescue. If you want to take it from there, April.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll never forget that day meeting Phoebe at her house. And I was like on her social media too, being like, oh my God, this girl is amazing. We have to work together. And I think one thing that's really beautiful about the rescue community is that you can find your people. Um, and and really within the sanctuary and rescue world, like here in the US, for example, the way that the sanctuaries and rescues and different rescuers work is we're all really a big network. It's a big web of networking. So one thing that I really realized was, there's these different hubs kind of for animals around the country, but Chicagoland didn't have kind of a hub here to help pick up that weight, and kind of connect that web together. So that's really how I started thinking and coming up with ideas for like, hey, if it's not here, we have the ability to make something here to connect that web together.
Yeah, I love that. And you like every day you hear a story from either a rescue or an update or fundraising. There's so much going on. And yeah, it's like, are there any, or I feel like there's not enough hours in the day to do all the work. It's really amazing. And you also partner a lot with other local businesses and restaurants, spreading awareness about pigs. It gets so heartwarming to see, folks walking about and then they just see this pig hanging out and they want to come.
Mhm.
It's a very welcoming way of activism. So has that been at the forefront of your approach when it comes to educating the community about pigs or animal rights in general?
Absolutely. I would say that one thing that is pretty unique to with Chicagoland Pig Rescue is that even though we don't have like acreage right now, we are really close to Chicago. And so we're able to tap into that community and kind of amplify our outreach in that way, and get people connected in a way that sometimes sanctuaries who are really rural, in rural communities, just don't have access to like their nearest large city. So we love connecting with different vegan restaurants or different vegan organizations, different volunteers here in Chicago. That's like a huge part of our mission.
And I think one thing that is also, when you think of a rescue or a sanctuary, like you said, there's the vision of land and then of rescued animals living there, and that is a full-time commitment. So like, what was the process like for both of you to come up with the model, or if you want to explain the model under which Chicagoland Pig Rescue operates?
So we are foster based. What we do, our process really is we have a three-tiered approach. Our main mission is like our boots on the ground rescue. So we're really acting as that first responder to pick up a pig that's in need, get them medical care. That's a huge part of our mission. Get them spayed and neutered. And then we foster them until we network and find them new homes. And then oftentimes we also transport them to their new homes. And we're working in that situation, we're working with private adopters or farm animal sanctuaries. Um, the second part of our mission is supporting those sanctuaries that take the pigs in that are in need, and giving back to those sanctuaries. And then the third tier is really supporting pig parents and private adopters, and educating people on proper pig care because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So that's something that we do as well. So I will say, back to your question about thinking about land, like farmland, and having a sanctuary versus the rescue the rescuing that we're doing, it really came about because I was sitting there thinking, coming from my realization that night on the couch to now fast forward a couple months thinking, well, what can I do? I don't have 100 acres right now. I don't have a barn, but I do have this drive and this passion. And I very quickly realized that as you pointed out, that sanctuary work is a real full-time job. And then picking up pigs, getting them healthcare, like all the things that we're doing is like another full-time job. So I was like, we can pick up kind of this work and do as much as we can with what we have right now. I didn't want to wait 10 years until we got land. I wanted to just do as much as possible with what we had. And so this is kind of the formula that we've come up with.
Yeah, that was perfect. Because I was just going to say, I think that that's something that, a great point April brought up, and that we want to educate the public on too, doing, the best with what you have, whether that be just supporting your, local farm animal sanctuaries and going out and volunteering or donating or sharing posts, or having your own micro sanctuary. I think a lot of people don't realize that they might have the resources to be able to adopt a pig or a couple pigs, and be able to, support those companion animals for, the remainder of their lives. So yeah, big advocates definitely for doing the best with what you have.
Yeah, and I think that's also a great piece of advice in general for any, activist out there who wants to start their own sanctuary. Um, there, of course, you can aspire to have your own land and rescue all of the animals, but you don't have to necessarily wait to have all the resources to do that. You can do
Mhm.
now and build from there. And with that, do you envision having a physical sanctuary, or are you just going to see how things progress?
I definitely think that our long-term goal is to have that acreage and to have a full kind of half rescue, half sanctuary type format. There's some people out there doing kind of both. They adopt out, but then they also have their sanctuary herd. And I think that's something that we would love to pursue. Right now, we're kind of focused just on our case like day-to-day basis, all of our cases at the current moment. But definitely that's like a long-term goal for us.
Exactly. And like again, don't, like you said, using the resources that you have, do what you can in that moment and don't let that vision of what you want and not having the resources for that in your current state keep you from doing anything. And you did touch upon, some misinformation out there and educating the public throughout your process, whether it was going vegan or actively being in the pig rescue space. Are there any misconceptions about pigs that you yourselves have overcome, or anything in particular that the public is, surprised to hear? You want to share some fun facts?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a lot of misinformation in regards to pigs out there. And I know even, I think both April and I, when we first started, um, researching pigs, still we weren't as educated, obviously, as we are now. I know prior to rescuing my Hadley, and doing research on pigs, there was big talks, the fads of like micro pigs, teacup pigs, were about where, we were told by breeders that these pigs can stay 30 pounds, and, live in your house and be all good. But quickly, just from some research, realized, that that's not true. That the average mini pig size is 150 pounds, and they're only mini pig just in relation to large breed pigs, which can be, 500 to 1,000 pounds. So learned that pretty quickly, and it's definitely something that we have to continue to educate the public on, even though there definitely is more information out there than, there has been prior. Um, some other ones we hear a lot are everybody thinking that pigs are very dirty, and they're actually one of the cleanest animals, even out in When, they're living in the wild, they're one of the only ones that separate the area that they go to the bathroom with the area that they sleep, and keep, they like being clean. In regards to mud, where, pigs do enjoy mud, it's for specific reasons. So pigs only sweat out their snouts. So they need the mud to stay cool. And also it acts as a sun protectant, to protect their skin from the sun, because their skin is very similar to humans, can get burnt just like us. Um, Kind of thinking some other ones, pigs and dogs. One I know I wish I knew prior, was that pigs and dogs aren't always a great mix. They speak different languages, even though obviously we want to advocate that they are treated, as wonderful as people view dogs and cats, they are very different. And so dogs are still going to be the predators and pigs are going to still be the prey. So even though they can be very close friends, unfortunately, that can change very quickly, oftentimes with pigs instigating, and dogs finishing that. So dogs and pigs can never be left alone. They always have to have, you always have to have eyes on them if you have them around one another. But something I had to learn quickly, because my pig Hadley grew up with, my older dog Charlie. So whenever I left the house, I would, leave Charlie out and I'd have to put Hadley in her room, so that they, would be safe. So yeah, just some of those. I think, obviously within our vegan community, I think we understand how sentient pigs are. But another one, I think a lot of people just don't realize how sensitive they are. They're super, super emotional beings. They're as smart as a toddler at cognitive level. So you really have to keep them engaged and busy and keep their mind working. So that they are, living, quality lives. But yeah, they're super emotional. They're not big on change. And so obviously if they are treated inhumanely, they can shed tears and feel that pain just as, we can.
But I didn't know about or maybe you did tell me about the dogs and pigs thing and I forgot. But yeah, I was like,
Mhm.
I know a lot of people in the rescue community also have other companion animals. So this
Right.
important to keep in mind because it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna foster or adopt a cute pig, and then, your dog might not get along with them or
Right, right. Unfortunately, definitely in the rescue community, we do get a lot of calls in regards to, pigs' ears being bitten off by dogs, or, just some sad stories because it's kind of too late, or people are like, never, this will never happen. My pig and dog are great together. But it's something to always keep in mind, because it's not easy, making sure you're always around, and something can happen with you right there and you have to be able to kind of jump right in. So yeah, I wish it was a little easier. It's a little better with cats and pigs get along really, really well. A lot of people don't, realize that. Usually cats love like rubbing up on the pig's bristles, and pigs will fall right over because they love, being touched. So they get along usually really well, and you don't have to. I have a pig and cat at home now, and I don't have to watch them. They're great.
man, maybe you should get my parents to rescue a pig and they'll
Yeah, there you go.
see this scratching post available any time of the day.
Yeah. Yep.
Anything you want to add, April? Any misconceptions that you may have had that you're like, oh, I didn't know this about pigs?
I all animals are individuals and have different unique personalities, but I will say it's been really interesting to see. Now I have six pigs at home, and just to see their individual personalities blossoming and the different hierarchy. I think that was another thing that I didn't know as much about that I do now, is that pigs have a really strict hierarchy. So They really will, they have a leader of their herd, and that leader is leader to like protect them from possible danger, to like alert the pack. They're kind of on watch. And then there's like a really strict system of like who's second in line, who's third in line, who's fourth in line. And I think this really goes to show their intelligence, that they are self-forming their own like society within the household, of pigs. And another thing that I've learned is that pigs have grieving processes. So if their mate passes away, they do specific vocalizations that they save just for grieving. I know that sanctuaries have witnessed, if a pig passes, that they have a system and they line up, and one at a time, based on their herd hierarchy, they go up and say goodbye to their friend, their mate, or herd member, I should say. And I think that goes to show the deep inner lives that they have, like these complex, rich inner lives that they might not be able to communicate through, language, but they do communicate all the time. You just have to be able to tune into that station and like learn your pig talk to understand. But once you do, you realize, oh my God, that their lives are just so complex. And I think that the death ritual really speaks to their capacity to feel all emotions. So not only grieving, but they also feel joy. Pigs get zoomies, just like dogs get zoomies. They show joy all the time. They play with toys. We've rescued pigs who, as they're growing up, we give them toddler toys, and it stimulates them in a really great way. Pigs also have been shown to like watch cartoons, like kid cartoons. So yeah, just showing that like ever enriching life that they have, I think has been really gratifying to witness personally.
Oh, I love all of that. That's so fascinating. When you rescue pigs, where are they usually coming from? Where are they rescued from? Is there one specific scenario that's more predominant? Others kind of, because I imagine you get emergency calls more more than we would like to get such calls that there's a pig out there in need.
Right. So, calls, I guess, are from all over. Definitely with, I think the epidemic of people getting pigs as companion animals. We unfortunately do get calls weekly to help. Usually a lot of times mini pigs that are in the homes. But just from where we are now, um, and because of the amount of calls we get, unfortunately, we have had, with us being such a small organization, to limit the cases that we take on to emergencies. So we kind of have a process to determine if we're going to take on a case. We want to help as many pigs as we can, as many families, even if we're not able to say yes to a case of a companion animal case. We give out resources, to help people as well. But right now we're really focused on emergency cases, which often can mean pigs that are the most vulnerable, which are our large breed pigs. And they're the most vulnerable just because specifically those are the pigs that people see as food, unfortunately. Even though I would say they are more friendly in regards to their personality and loving, a lot of times, than our mini pigs. April and I have mini pigs. We love them to death, but they can be sassholes a lot of the times. And I think there's a lot of, I guess that kind of goes into our misconceptions with how, large breed pigs are. But they're unfortunately easy to manipulate because of their personalities. So whenever we do get a call in regards to a large breed pig, that definitely tugs at our heart because of how vulnerable they are. We In regards to large breeds, oftentimes we'll save truck jumpers, which are pigs that are being are being transported on the highway when they're very, very young, to a fattening facility where they're going to be fattened up, before sending to slaughter. And the holes in the trucks, oftentimes pigs can, fall out, jump out, of those, and be sometimes the lucky ones will get saved. So we do jump into action very quickly when we get a call in regards to a truck jumper. But also we've gotten calls in regards to pigs that are in factory farms, that those pigs, there's some that maybe the farmer's willing to give up because they have no use for them, because they're too small. Backyard slaughter situations happen quite often as well, that I think people aren't aware of, that it's not just the large factory farms, but there are other hells, unfortunately, out there. But then in regards to mini pigs, we might get domestic violence cases where families, somebody is running from that home situation, is trying to find a safe home from their pig. So we've had several of those. We've had some cases where, unfortunately, the family has lost their home and they have to, they are either living out of their car or need to move to a much smaller place or with friends, and pigs aren't allowed everywhere because ordinances are very outdated. So we might be helping the family by taking in their pig and trying to find them a home, or just, other abusive situations, that we might find, the pigs are being abused, large or small breed. So again, we always try to help no matter who contacts us, but especially those emergency cases now, because we are so small, and taking on those the cases, especially jumping at the cases with the pigs that are most vulnerable.
Yeah. And is there a particular rescue story that stands out to you? That it could be current, it could be one of the past, and you both could have your own, a different story. That's fine too.
I can start us off. So, I think one that's just like has been on my mind because it is a recent case that we've shared, and it is a large breed pig case, is our pig Nala, who she was actually found in Chicago, tied up to a light pole, by Chicago police. And you can tell by her condition that she definitely was abused prior to that. And the Chicago police actually called the bird collision, the Chicago bird collision, in, and they went and picked up Nala, and then called us. So we're so grateful to them for jumping into action and making sure she got out of the cold right away, and then calling us. So it was a lot of coordinating right away to get her into a foster home. And currently she's down towards University of Illinois, with a wonderful private adopter, being fostered, and she recently got spayed. So definitely when we get calls like that, especially seeing, again, she's super vulnerable, doesn't have anywhere to go. And she's now like so full of life. So I think seeing that full circle of her being tied up to the pole to now running around being super spunky and loving and energetic is just amazing. Yeah.
How about you, April?
So one that always comes to mind is an older case of three pigs, Everest, Bear, and Scout. So we got a call from a rescue group in Kentucky that they on the property, there was a mother pig who, with her two piglets, who was trying to keep them alive and was nesting under somebody's porch. Thank God it was a man who was actually vegan that the animals chose to nest under his deck or his porch, I should say. And they had no place to go. Nobody, everybody was full. Nobody could foster them. And so I volunteered, like we, in my own home, I do have like a emergency foster stall. So I volunteered to take them. And when they got to us, again, we used that web of networking to get the pigs. Phoebe met someone on the road to pick up the pigs, brought them over to my house. And we really quickly realized that it wasn't a mother and two piglets. It was actually a male and two piglets. And the male Everest, the what we call like the foster dad or the dad, actually was not eating and letting the piglets eat the food that he was finding in order to save them. And he was actually fighting to keep them all alive, um, regardless that he couldn't, like they were trying to nurse on him, but, obviously no milk was coming out. But he was saving all the food scraps and stuff and letting them eat first. And we witnessed this down in my emergency stall of, he didn't know that they were going to get regularly fed now. So he would step back and let them eat before he himself would eat. And pigs are so food motivated that that was like a real conscious choice on his effort to do that, in order to save them. And they were so bonded together. He would let them crawl, Bear and Scout crawl up on his back and like nest on his back and fall asleep. And, we have no idea what happened. We think they were dumped, by somebody, but we know that Everest kept those two pigs alive. And I think that just shows, number one, the power of like love and that pigs show capacity to love not just a mother and her babies, but like a father and his babies, or, a surrogate father. And it also shows that, you know, these animals are fighting for their lives. They know what's going on and they know that they want to help each other as well as themselves. And it was just such an honor to rescue them after Everest had already rescued Bear and Scout. Like he was part of the rescuers on that case right along with us. And I always get chills thinking about it because it was such a special thing to witness. Just the love between them and yeah, the three of them so bonded, and we really worked hard to find them a home altogether. That's something that Chicagoland Pig Rescue we really strive to keep bonded families together, as much as we can, and we really do. So we were able to find them a home together to flourish.
Oh, I love that story so much. That is so fascinating. Like, wow, that and I love that because I was itching to ask, like, are they still together? Like, did they stay together? And I'm so happy that
Yeah.
yeah. And I love that from both your stories and narratives, like you always emphasize the individual, the personalities. Um and that pigs have, and that's something that most folks already know when it comes to dogs and cats and their companion animals. And with that, and I think that also translates to the veterinary profession with how veterinarians treat companion animals. It doesn't seem unreasonable to expect a veterinarian to be open to veganism or vegetarianism or animal rights, but unfortunately that's not the case because like we're aware of the strong holds that the slaughter-based industry has on the profession as well. So, and given that a lot of your emergency cases are often rescues from this very industry, and when you're getting emergency treatment, taking them to these university hospitals that also do special, they're like also big ag schools, so the students are being trained to view these animals differently from how they view cats and dogs. So is that something that you've any sort of conflict of interest that you've encountered, or how do you feel the pigs that you are bringing in are treated versus, maybe they might be treating pigs at a slaughter facility and it might look completely different. So is that something that you've experienced and are able to touch on?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's a very complex issue. And there's a lot of factors that go into it. But I will say we've definitely witnessed speciesism in certain cases with certain vets, like even not only cats and dogs, but like in the farm world, like if you bring in a show horse versus a rescue pig, that can be viewed in a different lens, by the wrong vet. I will say that I have personally met veterinarians that have really traumatic experiences being trained in animal agriculture, and that's not what they got into the profession for. And I know that like within the profession, there's a very high suicide rate, and with vets feeling conflicts and there's so much that goes into their profession that I think we're just really grateful for the vets that we have found that we love working with, because there are a lot of great vets out there. I will say that there's certain also complicating factors, even as far as medication. So sometimes a vet's hands are tied because of government regulations. And what I mean by that is we've witnessed or we've had cases where we know a medication will help a pig get better, but the USDA or the government has the vets are not allowed to prescribe that medication to a quote unquote food animal, because if by chance the pig is actually slaughtered and eaten, then it would have a negative impact on whoever consumed the animal. So it's heartbreaking and infuriating and frustrating to know that, okay, here's a sick sentient being who needs this medication, who it could easily be prescribed to us and help this animal, but the laws are tying the hands of the veterinarians that they cannot prescribe it. So I think that was something that once when I got into rescue, I was floored by that. And I see the heartbreak in the vet's eyes, being like, I wish I could do something, but legally, I cannot, type of deal.
Like you said, it's like super complex because again, we're aware of the statistics in regards to vets. There's not enough vets, especially large animal vets. I think in regards to even the most experienced vets aren't a lot of times experienced enough, with farm animals, quote unquote farm animals growing old and elderly because they are used to working with animals that are slaughtered at a very young age. So there's not a ton of research and, knowledge out there in regards to older pigs because of that. So it's everything all around can be, heartbreaking, I guess. It's like April said, a lot of society and just kind of how we've done things, for so long goes into it. So I think a lot of people, obviously, with very good intentions, go into veterinary care. And there's a lot of reasons why, there's speciesism throughout the profession. But we definitely need better laws, and we need better societal views, and we need more vets fighting for animal rights and supports for those vets because of that high suicide rate. All animal rights, I always say, is directly correlated to human rights. So I think just making sure both ends, like whether we're fighting for one or the other, they're going to impact and intertwine. So yeah.
Yeah, I would love to continue highlighting what Phoebe just mentioned as far as pigs normally being slaughtered at 6 months, not allowed to grow old. And so when university vets actually do see elderly pigs, this is actually sanctuaries pushing forward veterinary medicine. And I think that's really revolutionary. And so just by caregiving, it's activism because you are going to these vets saying, we are needing this service to be done, and we need to figure out how to do it for elderly animals because they are individuals. And so it's not about just vaccinating to get until a product can be produced, that these are sentient beings that we now need to figure out, and push medicine forward to treat those senior animals. So yeah, I think I'm really proud of the sanctuary and rescue community for pushing medicine forward in that way.
That was such a powerful thing to say that animal rescue and sanctuary is advancing veterinary medicine because, like you said, they're not used to providing care for animals who are just allowed to age in with dignity. And I love that statement. It's amazing to when you think of it that it's actually the rescue like they're giving the opportunity to veterinarians um to learn and grow and kind of align their ethics with their profession. So yeah, I really do. I think that's going to be like the takeaway. And there is a great organization called Our Honor that is kind of working to a lot of the things that you're saying, empowering um, compassionate veterinarians in the community to speak up, challenging the norms of veterinary medical associations, government agencies. And so, yeah, it's such a great way to see collaboration in this space as well. There's a lot that comes with running a rescue, clearly. And you've touched on, the rewarding aspects of success stories, the challenges um, either having to provide care or securing care or transport and all of these emergency logistics. So keeping that in mind, or if if there's anything additional to add to that, what advice would you want to give to activists who want to start their own sanctuary at some point in the future, be it have their own property or kind of go with this foster format?
I would say, first of all, we desperately need more rescues and rescuers and sanctuaries within the space. Desperately. Sanctuaries are stretched so thin because there's not enough of us doing this work. So anybody who has that inclination, know that you have such a power within you to step up and just begin right where you are, to make that difference, and that you will really, in fostering your rescue network and your rescue skills, you are really becoming like a miracle maker for these animals. And like you have the power to make these miracles happen for these beings. And that is so beautiful and empowering. And so I would say, if you feel it, go for it. I will recommend definitely volunteering at existing sanctuaries and rescues first, to kind of get your feet wet and see what it's all about. There is definitely a big learning curve, and so just kind of jumping into volunteering is always a good idea. Um, Again, with that, start kind of where you are model. If you know, like how I mentioned earlier, if you know, 10 years down the road, you might be able to have land, acreage, and barns and all of that stuff, but you don't right now. Like you can still adopt a potbelly, and have them within your home, or you can get chickens or um, stuff like that. So there's power in knowing that you can do something right where you are. And then I would say contact us because we love working with people who are very interested in this. And we've worked with people really all over the country. So no matter where you are, we can definitely, we have like resource lists. We can connect you to sanctuaries in your state. We can, help as much as we can. If you're local, we've helped put up fencing for new sanctuaries, stuff like this. So that's like a big, exciting venture or like outlet that we love to provide for people. So definitely contact us.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, we'll include all of the information in the show notes so folks can follow you, follow the stories of all the rescues, and yeah, connect and help out. And actually, while we were talking about the veterinarian um, issue and the law, like I think when you're faced with these kinds of roadblocks, it's also an opportunity to think of creative ways to get active. And so I guess any listeners who are in the animal law space or like are legal experts, this could be an opportunity to maybe get, as we make progress towards removing sentient beings from the quote unquote food system, there could a good step in that direction could be getting an exemption to those restrictions to provide life-saving treatment to pigs who are not going to be slaughtered and consumed. And so allowing them to get the treatment they need because they're your companions and they're your family. So and I think, of course, as a rescue, you're able to identify these, these spaces that can use some field of expertise and someone to come in and come with the solution. So again, just for activists out there, whether you're interested in the rescue element or you're a legal expert or a teacher, like what there is something that you can do. And kind of going back to what you had beautifully said earlier, April, like do something with the resources that you have. And I think through the rescue work, I think that's such a powerful way to find some like significant flaws and gaps because when I think about dogs and cats, like they are experimented on, but just because there is there is an industry that's profiting off of experimenting on dogs and cats for whatever reason, that's not keeping veterinarians from prescribing our companion dogs and cats life-saving medication. I mean, of course, we're not eating the beagles after being tested on, but still, like we're able to
Right.
see a discrepancy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Absolutely. And I will say too, like even, you know, if you're an artist, I'll
Mhm.
say too, as another example, like rescues and sanctuaries are always needing like new merch. And that sounds, you have like the flashy emergency rescues and stuff like that. And then you might think like, oh, merch. But like, no, that's a really important actually, because that's how sanctuaries and rescues like make some of their money. And so certain things like that even is really powerful. Or, like a sanctuary highlighting a specific rescue and then they have like artwork for it. Like that's huge to a
Hmm.
sanctuary. I will also say even if you're somebody who just has a really big heart and you're very caring and that's what you have to offer, sanctuaries and rescues love to get messages from people who it just gives them a boost in their day to say, hey, thank you for what you're doing, or this was incredible, like keep up the good work type of thing, because sanctuaries and rescues are stretched so thin and we're seeing like the worst of the worst of the worst day after day after day. It's just going from one horrific case to another. And so to get that positive feedback and get that positivity injected into your day can actually make a huge difference to the mental health of the rescuers. So even if all you have to give are your kind words, that's huge.
So I do know that you have some exciting new plans with your initial with the work that the rescue work that you're doing. So is this a good time to spill tea a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. I love spilling the tea. Um, So we are actually starting something called Project Sanctuary, and I'm very excited about it. Really what it's geared to do is to connect the vegan community and and also the just community of animal lovers to sanctuaries. So, it's really important to realize that you might see like a cute dodo video of like a rescue, or, you might see a rescue case on, being shared on social media. And you might think like, oh, great, they're safe, like the end. But it's actually the beginning, because then this animal is going to need 15 plus years of care to live out their lives. And if an animal is saved from the food industry, but they have nowhere to go, that's not a rescue because they're not able to actually live out their lives. So sanctuaries are the boots on the ground, everyday, like saviors of these animals. Um, I I think it's just so important. Sanctuaries are stretched so thin. Like I had mentioned earlier, there's just not enough people in the space doing that work. So, I mean, sanctuaries are just every day trying to figure out how to spread themselves even thinner to rescue more. And there's just really nowhere for these animals to go anymore because all the sanctuaries are full. So supporting new sanctuaries, new rescuers, but also like the OG guys that are holding it down. That is so important. And I think there's a big, big opportunity within the vegan community to support your local farms animal sanctuary. That it's just as important. Of course, we all know it's very important to like share when you're eating a vegan meal, or like supporting your local vegan restaurants, right? And like sharing that, and celebrating that. But I would say it's just as equally important to be supporting the sanctuaries that are caring for these animals, because they oftentimes aren't there's a lot of visibility within like the sanctuary community, but I think taking that community and opening it up to like vegans at large, um, will be really powerful. So please, please, vegans, support your local sanctuaries. What we're doing is we're compiling lists of reputable sanctuaries, because you might say like, okay, now I know that I should be supporting sanctuaries, but like who and how and where, like
You don't want
um,
to accidentally support a petting zoo, because yeah, they're always lurking out there.
exactly. So we're compiling, incomplete lists because there's always, more great sanctuaries out there, but we're compiling lists by region. So whatever region you're in, if you want to do some research and you just need a kind of help getting into like, who do I research? Who do I, which sanctuary should I check out first? We have a list of just amazing places that we've personally worked with, or that we have personal knowledge of other trusted rescuers working with, or places that we've been to in person, so that it kind of helps get your foot in the door of like which places to start supporting. We also have lists of like how to support. So not only volunteering, let's say that you're not able to drive physically out to your nearest sanctuary, but you can donate. You could sponsor animals. You could join the sanctuary's Patreon. You could do, really popular is like birthday fundraisers on Facebook. You can throw up a birthday fundraiser, or like, a Valentine's Day fundraiser, or whatever it might be on your own social media. And then, of course, what I touched on earlier is like sending those good vibes and that love out to support your sanctuaries, because the mental health of rescuers, is really important to keep their mental health healthy. And I think just support from the community, so important. Another free thing that you can do is sharing their fundraisers or sharing their stories on your social media. So there's like a lot of things that you can be doing as a vegan or an animal lover to be supporting your sanctuaries. And we're trying to kind of compile lists of those, compile those sanctuaries, and then get the word out there as much as possible that it's so, so, so important. If you care about animals, you need to care about your sanctuaries.
Yeah, it's like a one-stop shop for how to support your sanctuaries, which ones are reputable. And yeah, and it would, I think that's a fantastic initiative because sometimes you're like, I don't, there's so many ways you can support and like having a clear path, like, okay, can't afford to donate, you can do this. You have some money, you can do that. And like kind of showing people what something as small as like $5 a month can accumulate to provide and giving people an idea of what their support is doing is, I think that in a way, it's also like a positive feedback loop because you're like, oh, wait, that my support did that or my support made their day or it could yeah it's just something as small as that and I think that's a great idea and a great initiative. So is that something that is already launched or in the works?
So it's in, we're still developing the programming for it, but we already have on our website, if you go on chicagolandpigrescue.com, there's a tab that says Project Sanctuary, and we have like a list, the initial list of ways to support that I was like listing off from. That's on our website. And we already have the Midwest region up on our sheet up on our website as well. So those two things, and we have merch coming, which I'm really excited about. So that'll be fun to have. And we're going to be working on launching the rest of the regions on our website and kind of continuing to develop the project. But yeah, we're so grateful to be on here on this podcast talking about it now because it's kind of the first time we're talking about it and it feels really special. And yeah, so thank you.
I'm really excited for a Chicagoland Pig Rescue sweatshirt. So I think that's so fun. And so Phoebe, is there anything that you'd like to chime in with as far as this initiative goes?
There's so many people that just aren't aware of how many animal sanctuaries, farm animal sanctuaries specifically, are around them or in their state or region. Um, there's definitely nowhere near enough, but there are still a good amount that people are unaware of and how to support. So I think our goal is to really get that word out there and to start being creative because it's like anybody that's in the pig community really, you know that there are sanctuaries and stuff like that, but that's not everyone. And prior to, I think April and I jumping, getting our own pigs and then jumping onto, kind of the pig social media world. I think both of us, like, I had no idea that there were farm animal sanctuaries even within driving distance of me. Otherwise, I feel like I would have been out there volunteering a lot sooner. Um, than I had been doing. Or like, there's 4-H and FFA, and I feel like a lot of people don't know that there are other options to get to know animals, to know how to care for them, to learn about their personalities and how amazing they are. And sanctuaries, volunteering at a sanctuary, that's going to give you experience to learn how to take care of animals that grow elderly. Whereas if you're in FFA or 4-H, like, you're not getting that opportunity, which oftentimes people, kiddos don't even realize going into that, and are devastated later on. So I think we're really excited just to start getting creative and brainstorming of how we can get this initiative out, especially to the vegan world, but then, just the world in general, so that we are helping create more vegans and people that are making a difference in animals' lives.
Yeah, and again, with the reason why a lot of animals and the heartbreaking reason why sanctuaries can't welcome every rescue who comes their way is because, they don't have the capacity or the resources. So with more support, they can they can maybe rescue more, they can expand more, and yeah, they won't have to turn away as many, and that's huge. So definitely a resource that the vegan community has the power to help expand. So I'm looking forward to seeing that come to fruition and put in effect. That's great. Um,
Thanks.
yeah, thank you. And you talked a lot about the work you're doing and how it stands out. But as far as from both of your individual perspectives, is there a specific void in the animal rights community that you think that you are hoping to fill with your work? And where can the vegan and animal rights movement perhaps improve with how things are going with the status quo?
So I definitely think this kind of goes hand in hand with Project Sanctuary, because not to be repetitive, but uh, vegans have such a huge heart, and there's so much like strength and power behind like the vegan activist community. And I think if that was also sharing or shared with the sanctuary world, that would be such a huge push forward. And so I think vegans don't realize the capacity they have to power change for the sanctuary world, and that relationship could be really strengthened. So yeah, through Project Sanctuary, I think that is a huge like space that could be filled. And then again, going back to like the idea of micro sanctuaries, that caregiving is activism, and that's something that I think isn't as talked about as other forms of activism. So just kind of thinking about that and talking about that, I think is a space that could be strengthened. And I will say too that small steps matter. So if, we love meeting people where they are in their journey at the time, and just taking little steps forward, do what you can with what you have, and link up with people who are doing the things that you want to be doing, because that's community building. And community building, as we know, is a huge form of activism. Um, but yeah, I would love to see the vegan world and animal rights activist groups putting more love and joy and power and support to those sanctuaries.
Yeah, that was beautifully said.
I will just say it over and over and over, like, please support your your sanctuary.
Because I was gonna ask, like, how can the community support your work? And like we've already talked about that, like through the course of the conversation. And so, yeah, we'll definitely be sure to link all of your information on there too. So if people want to donate or send you kind words of support, keep up with the stories. There's always, or want to, if you're in the Midwest area, able to provide transport, all of that, like we'll be sure to include all of your information, and anything else that you would want us to provide so people can be in touch.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we do. We share all of our rescue stories. Like, um, we really love to delve into those rescue stories, because I think, again, seeing their journey from being picked up to getting the vet care to the fostering process, the decompressing and grieving process that these pigs go through a lot of times, and then their new home and updates from their new home. Like, you see the journey, like this is a life being lived. This is a life being experienced, that we're assisting in that life, but the pig's life is their own, and they're an individual. And so we love highlighting that as we talk about the stories. And we also love talking about micro sanctuaries and showing images of pigs in homes. um, I think a lot of times there's this misconception that like when you see a pig in a sanctuary, sometimes people can think, oh, well, this is where all pigs are. Like they're all on grass and they're all on, these things. But it's like no, they're not. They're
Living in
sanctuary.
a high rise for all you know.
Yeah, and sanctuary, so that space, that acreage is actually revolutionary. But a lot of people don't realize that. And so what we try to do is share a micro sanctuary perspective as well. Um, to show pigs cuddling. Like one of my pigs sleeps in bed with me at night. And to show her cuddling up to me like a dog would cuddle up to you and showing that kind of revolutionary space as well, I think sometimes helps people make that connection. So that's another thing that we're trying to like share on our social media too. So, you know, we would love for more people to follow along on those journeys. And then also, share as much as you can, like, to help us amplify that message would be incredible. We're really trying to grow our social media for that reason, just amplifying. So, as much as people are willing to help us do that is so greatly appreciated.
Yes, we're always looking for transporters and stuff like that. Our biggest area of need is fosters. So again, you might have the capacity to be a quick emergency week foster, or you might have the capacity to long-term foster for many months. Like April said, we want to meet people where they're at, and we are being a foster run organization. We are always looking for fosters. We get emergency cases all the time, just cases in general all the time, and it sucks to have to turn those down. So we're continuing to want to build our foster partnerships, because that is the number one way we can save more pigs, is building that foster partnership. So we work with new fosters all the time that have never even met pigs, to help train them and get them comfortable, and we provide the supplies, and the food and the things that they need, and then we are supporting them constantly with communication, and things like that. So definitely, constantly, like I said, looking for foster homes that we can partner with.
Yeah, and do they have to be in a certain location or do you work with fosters across the country?
All over. Our biggest, like with Chicagoland, it's really Chicago, the suburbs of Chicago, but then the states that are surrounding Illinois as well. So we have foster homes, in Missouri, in Indiana, in Wisconsin, in different areas. But as April mentioned earlier too, even if you're in another state that we aren't as close with, we can hook you up with rescues and sanctuaries that are near you, as well. But yes, they're kind of all over. April and I are able to drive to some others. We are able to find other volunteers, knowledgeable volunteers, or rescues or sanctuaries that can come out and help support if we're not able to get there ourselves, or we're doing Zoom calls and texts and sending pictures and videos and things like that.
So I will say, if you're somebody who has gone to vigils and felt helpless, or felt those huge emotions and want and have that like bundle of energy that comes from those emotions, like Phoebe mentioned, we literally rescue truck jumpers. So these are literally pigs coming off of like similar trucks, as it's just a different time in their life. You see the vigils, they're 6 months old. We get the truck jumpers at about 4 weeks, but same trucks, same industry, and we are out there saving those pigs. So, if you're somebody who has gone to vigils and felt powerless and just wanted to do anything to help, know that like turning to animal rescue, you're literally helping those same, pigs from the same situation. And I think sometimes that connection, like I just love highlighting that connection because it can feel really, you can feel really like beaten down and powerless by like the magnitude of the industry. But when you kind of zoom in when you zoom into animal rescue, you see these individuals and that you are able to do something. So, like Phoebe mentioned, you can foster them. Um, like when we get emergency calls, oftentimes those emergency calls are literally life and death. If it's not picking up a truck jumper off the side of a literal expressway, it's like a pig that is being saved from like a backyard butcher who they're threatening to shoot the pig, or a police officer who, there's a pig who's quote unquote aggressive, aka terrified for their lives, and a police officer might, it might be at risk of being, the pig might be at risk of being shot. And so we're swooping in, and it is life or death situations. And so to foster, or even just be a short-term foster for like a couple days while we figure out other arrangements, I mean, that's a huge, you're making a miracle happen for those pigs. So yeah, please know that if you're in that space and you're feeling overwhelmed by it, that if you zoom in and join in on the rescue of them, that is something that feels so powerful and like emotionally uplifting because you're physically able to do something about it.
Yeah. This actually does bring up another question that I thought of because, as you mentioned, in sanctuaries, we see pigs out and about. There's like plenty of land. And then you're seeing them also in a capacity of like being your companion animals at home, hanging out in a home setting. And so, for fosters or potential first-time adopters, is that something that you're able to either educate or provide resources on, especially? It's going to be a new experience for them, but I know Phoebe and I have had conversations about this, dealing with HOAs or like landlords and stuff like that. So, is that something that you're also able to, I mean, of course, not in a legal capacity, but just some sort of support or advice on how to either get the necessary permissions and navigate that because the concept of having a pig living inside, an apartment or a condo or even a house is relatively new to a lot of people who are not familiar with, even within the vegan community, people are like, oh, wait, you have a pig living in your condo? And you're like, yeah, that's no big deal. But it can be a novel thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a lot of resources. That third prong approach, the third prong, is definitely helping new pig parents and new fosters. I wrote a pig care guide that we now hand out anytime somebody fosters for us or adopts from us. And it's like, it's like a primer of all the basics and to know, to help you know what to further delve in and further research. But it is pretty comprehensive as far as like basic pig care. So we love handing that out. We also do special work in special circumstances with like helping um, people navigate approaching their towns to get the zoning laws changed if you want to adopt a pig, but the zoning laws are outdated. A lot of times the zoning laws are talking about no, you can't have a pig, but their definition of pig is like the large breed pigs that they're thinking, oh, you're going to start farming pigs or something like this. And to talk about, no, this is a companion animal. This is a sentient being, and to kind of approach how do you approach your town. I've talked to like town council. I've been in council meetings before, like advocating for changing in zoning laws, and that process really helped me learn what to bring up when you approach your town. So if you're having any zoning issues, please reach out, because we do have resources that can help for that as well.
Yeah, that's great to know that all of these resources exist so that people who want to support or help know that they have backing from you as an organization to address all of these other complexities that come as we, navigate dismantling speciesism in every way, shape, and form.
Absolutely. Because even when you're going to your town, like if you're just advocating for yourself to have a companion pig, that's still activism because you're still going to town officials and you're still educating people on the sentience of pigs and their like rich inner worlds and all that stuff that goes into it. I mean, like that's a ripple effect whenever you advocate in whatever way to educate and get things changed. That has a huge ripple effect, and you're a lot more powerful than you realize.
Totally. Much needed words of encouragement for us all these days.
Yes.
So I personally like to wrap up with this question, and feel free to interpret the word vegan as you will. And I think from the conversations that we've all had, we view it outside of just food, Phoebe, you talked about animal rights and human rights, everything being connected. So kind of viewing it from that framework, what does a vegan world look like to you? And the reason, I guess the reason why I particularly like asking that to people in the rescue and sanctuary spaces is kind of going back to that point of, we have this vision of cows being out in a pasture and dogs living with us at homes. But I'm like, okay, what is it? Like, are we looking at a world where there's a cow going, just walking downtown? Like, is that what we're thinking of when it's like, we're all equal, we all exist? Like, what is that? How do we coexist when we're still, we have the city, we have the the rural area, so there's still that divide. So this is like a very twisted way of asking this question, but essentially, what does coexisting and in that capacity with these farmed animals who now because we are seeing some quote unquote boundaries being crossed with where, pigs. And even I think there's a story of a cow at the Gentle Barn Sanctuary in their California property where the baby calf was hanging around at the rescuers' homes till, he got big enough to be on the sanctuary property. So, yeah, essentially, what does it look like to you to just live amongst all of these species peacefully?
Mhm. Um, Definitely a very complex, I guess, question. I guess first off, when I think of like what a vegan world looks like to us, we would love for Chicagoland Pig Rescue to not have to be. I think a lot of people think for rescues and sanctuaries, oh, what fun. And like, yes, we absolutely love what we do and like advocating for um, these amazing sentient beings, but we would rather not be doing this. We would love for everyone to view animals in the light that we view them in, and for them not to have to be rescued from neglect and abuse and speciesism and all of that. Um, so we would love that. I think there's a lot of talks, especially now, in regards to the environment, and we are taking away a lot of all animals habitats. So I think in my view is that we would limit the impact. Then I think that's what veganism is limiting our negative impact as much as we possibly can. So everyone would be doing that. We would be working together, humans, animals, to make sure that we're not impeding upon each other's habitats and livelihoods. And, you know, uh, I guess thinking about how I said that their animal rights and human rights are intertwined, and that in my mind, we can't have one without the other. So that if we had full totality of animal rights, we would have full totality of human rights. And, there wouldn't be those, the most vulnerable populations wouldn't be as attacked, as they are. It's kind of a way around it, but yeah, it's really complex. We would love to. I know we'll get people that'll say, "Oh, do you just want like what happens if everybody becomes vegan or animals aren't bred?" And in our minds, like great, like we don't want if animals are solely bred to be abused and neglected. We would rather them not have be bred at all. So I
Good
yeah,
point.
I
Yeah.
think that's really hard for some people to like understand.
Yeah. It's like just because you exist, it's like, oh, then there wouldn't be cows in the world. And it's like, you know what? I think that's in their best interest if their lives are going to be like to be
Right.
fully impregnated and all of the horrors that they have to go through. And same with pigs. And yeah, so that's and I think people might not expect that counter argument too. And you're like, I wouldn't want to be born just to be tortured throughout my life.
Right.
So why would that be any different for them?
Right. Exactly.
I would also like to add in the topic of feral pigs or like wild pigs who are, currently out there struggling and fighting to survive, but they're being literally eradicated by our governments because they're viewed as invasive species to America. And just they literally have no rights. Like the government is like incentivizing people to hunt them, and there's huge um, kind of initiatives to eradicate them. And so I think like it goes hand in hand with what Phoebe was saying that we need to stop thinking about land only existing for humans, and that land actually is habitat and how important that is. And then I think of course, the anti-speciesist mindset where, we're not, just because we're humans doesn't mean that we have any more right to be here than any other living being. And I think, you'll often hear people say like, oh, well, humans, we have science, we have this, we're so intelligent, we're inventing things, like we're the dominant species. So like, of course we can do these things. And I would counter that with the invitation to shift that mindset from we're humans, so we're dominant, so we're the masters of all these other beings, to shifting it to be we are humans and we have the capacity to affect these living beings. So let's be caretakers, and let's be like stewards of the land and caretakers to the animals because we have all this capacity as humans, and have that mindset as like um, a familial like mothering of these animals, or fathering of these animals instead of wanting to just solely dominate them.
Yeah, that was very beautifully said. And I think, I guess when I first was thinking of this particular question forever ago, I think it came up when you hear the usual vegan troll arguments. That's like, oh, like you want pigs to vote or you want like cows to drive cars, and that's kind of where I was like, huh, what would it look like if they, I mean, not if they were voting and or driving, but like what would it look like if they like if we are like if we see their lives and our lives kind of intermingle and coexist, and the sanctuaries were where I was seeing that in real time. And often these sanctuaries are kind of out of sight because they're quite far out from where a lot of people might be living, unless they're in these rural or farming communities or ag communities. So I've always found that interesting. It's like, huh, what would that look like? And then, and I think just to think of it as just I, we're protectors. It's our responsibility to be guardians. And even measuring our intelligence based, like, there's so many things that an ant, a fly, even pigs, dogs, and
birds can do that we can't. And we don't measure ourselves. So we are measuring their intelligence based off of what they're doing in comparison to us as humans. But at the same time, we as humans ourselves, like, I mean, I'm not building a rocket tomorrow or any day, anytime soon, but there are people smart enough to do that. But that doesn't make, well, I'd like to think that doesn't make my life any less worthy than someone who has certain intellectual capacities. And the same applies to, like, they're all intelligent and smart in the way that they need to live the lives that they need to live. And I think the
Right.
that how we as a species are showing up in the world, disrupting that, and despite that disruption, they're still able to figure out a way to coexist with us, which I think is quite fascinating. It's like they're like, hey, we're trying to keep up with your chaos. You guys get something needs to change and you need to get it together. So
Yeah, I love the two words that you highlighted, guardian and protector. I wrote those down because I think, yeah, that's exactly like we have this capacity as humans to make an impact. And which way is it going to be? And I think a lot of people view it, oh, master dominant, like we're the dominant ones, and it's like, no, we have the capacity to be protectors, to be guardians, to be caretakers, and that's a huge power in and of itself. So yeah, I love that you highlighted that.
appreciate that. And I also find it, rather silly that we come up with this concept of like hierarchy. Like that was a human generated thing. And then we put ourselves as a species on top. It's like, okay, like and you're like, yeah, we are the top, like predator, whatnot. And it's like, or like we're at the top of the food chain. Like, I hate to break it to you, but we're not. Scientifically, we are also
Right.
not.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And like there's nothing natural about our food industry.
Exactly.
People say like, oh, well, it's, the food chain, it's the natural, we're there's nothing natural about keeping animals in cages and being bred, breeding them in order to kill them. Like that's not how the wild world works. We've distorted it.
Yeah, it's like you know when they pick and choose the the call to nature fallacy to justify certain things. I feel like this could be a whole different like two
Right.
rant session altogether.
Totally.
Would be fun, of course, but I know you both are busy helping pigs, coordinating things, and doing all of the wonderful work that you do. So before I let you go, is there anything else that you want to add on that we didn't get to cover? Anything that you want the animal activism collective community to know, keep an eye out for? We'll, of course, include all of them in the notes, but anything that you'd like to add before we sign off?
I was just going to say thank you so much for having us on. We're excited for who anybody that reaches out and wants to work with us or get to know, more information of how you can get involved. We just really appreciate the community as a whole. And yeah, are excited to keep working and trucking along until we do get to, that world that we see us all kind of living harmoniously together in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here and be talking with you. And we're, like Phoebe mentioned, just so excited to connect and build our community. And I just know that everybody listening has that individual power and that passion and the drive and just something unique to offer. So yeah, we're excited to connect with everybody, and we're just so thankful for the community.
Yeah, and the community is thankful for all of the important work that you're doing as well, because it is not easy. But you both are, you talk the talk, walk the walk, and are doing it with so much dedication and passion. It's so evident, and I'm glad that fortunate to have, met you, call both of you dear friends, and it's always fun to have these conversations with people that you know genuinely connect with and admire their work. So thank you so much for all that you do. And and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk with us today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, same. Thanks so much, Shreya.
If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button because AAC's YouTube channel is packed with educational content, interviews, workshops, trainings, and so many valuable resources. And at AAC, it's important that these resources are made available for free. So if you're able to, even a one-time donation or becoming a monthly Patreon member, a little goes a long way. Oh, and before I sign off, here's one more reminder that at animalactivismcollective.com, you can sign up for a free mentor. So if you're looking for a sign to get active for the animals, here you go. And remember, it's going to take all of us to come together, stay focused, stay determined, and stay dedicated for animal liberation to become a reality. And so let's do this, folks. Until next time.